Welcome to Dad Talk Today. My name is Eric Carroll, and we have an amazing show lined up for you. We are fighting for fathers all across the United States and all across the world where you can be glad to be dad. Stick around, guys. Dad Talk Today is about to begin. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. I'm just kidding. This is not going to be like a normal episode. We're just going to come on here and have a little conversation back and forth. We have been working very hard since the beginning of this year, and today marks a moment that we've been working very hard towards. Robert, it looks like we finally finished this thing, man.
I hope so. We've been at it for a long time now.
What a journey it has been. We just wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about what this process has been like. A week from today, in case you don't know, the I Stand With John documentary that we've been working on is set to release. Finally. And for 1 hour of video, the amount of work that went in, I have a complete new respect for filmmakers. I don't know about you, but
editors, producers, everything, like from voice to music to background. Yeah.
Talking about editors and producers, it's that was one of the things, like when we started this. I think next time we do something like this, we will know so much better how to do it. We learned so much in the process, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been a little bit of a headache. We've had many people that I hired on to help with this that I've fired more than I know what to do with. It's crazy when people came in here and saw the amount of footage that we had to go through. I think it just intimidated them. They're like, "We're out."
Yeah. Yeah.
But
we had several hundred files, from pictures to actually even more than that with pictures, but video, everything. It was a lot of content.
I have a brand new computer that I got a year ago, and it is completely maxed out. Had to buy new storage and everything just to get these files going. But you know what, man? As invested as we've gotten in John's story, it couldn't be for a better cause. We're his voice now. We are his voice. He came on here to get his story out, and we're going to continue that. And, it makes me proud that the family trusted us to get this word out there, and we really have put our heart and soul into this, guys. So I hope next week you guys will tune in when we go to do this. But let's go back to February. Robert, kind of start back at the beginning. If everybody knows the Brian Adams story, Brian was 14 years old when he was in a hotel room with his mom. He had been alienated from his dad. His dad had fought trying to get custody of Brian and couldn't get it. She was making hash oil drugs in the hotel room, and at that point in time, she was using butane to extract the THC. And while he was asleep, she lit a cigarette, and that blew him out the window. Blew him straight out the window, guys. And Brian went to 3 different hospitals trying to get help, and they all three said, "There's nothing we can do. We can only make him comfortable." And the Shriners caught on, and they helped save Brian. It's a story that's my buddy that we've been covering ever since I started Dad Talk, and we wanted to give some progress updates on that. We was going to make a documentary on that. Brian, over 200 surgeries he's been through, had to raise close to $200,000 to get a life-saving surgery. But as we already had tickets, Robert, we was set to go, and just a couple of days before that, I'll walk you guys through it. Last Thanksgiving, John came on the show to tell me about what he was going through. We did a marathon where alienated parents could come on and have some people that knew what they was going through. And John was the very first person to sign up. He had been exonerated in May. Now it's November. It's the holidays when he should be seeing his kids, and he wasn't being gave that opportunity. And so we talked that day, and I pre-recorded that show because I did want to spend some time with my family on the holidays. And when I got through recording John that day, it was like a week before Thanksgiving. I turned it off, brought John back up on the screen, and me and him sat there and talked. I wanted to develop a relationship with him, give him some time because I could tell he was hurting in that moment. But John was so hopeful that day because he knew the following month he was supposed to be going back to court after being exonerated, and he was going to be told when he could see his kids. So as far as we knew, everything sounded great, right? And then I woke up February 6th, Saturday, February 6th. And I always check my phone in the middle of the night because I've gotten some horrendous emails in the middle of the night. Father's on the brink of suicide or something's going to happen. I never know. And when I got my phone, I had got the word that John was murdered. His sister had wrote out. That feeling is a feeling I'll never be able to express to you guys. It's one of the worst feelings. I can only imagine what it was like for the family. I can only imagine. I jumped out of bed. I started looking up articles. I wanted to know what was going on. It was a state of shock. He was just on the show, and you're telling me he got murdered. But we stopped everything we did. We canceled our tickets, and this became number one priority. And let me tell you guys why. The media hardly ever gets these things right. They just don't. And the silver bullet is such a dangerous thing because once you're painted with that allegation of physical abuse or sexual abuse, you've already got that stigma. People already believe it. No matter how innocent you are, people are going to believe it. I knew that if that got into the news without us, making sure, I reached out to all the media immediately. I said, guys, he was just on the show. This is what happened. Make sure you get it right before it goes out there. And I can honestly say, for the most part, the media did. Okay. For one time, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. KLEW up in Lewiston, Idaho. You guys are amazing. They gave us the clips that they, from their coverage, and you'll see that in the film. But I knew that John needed us there more than ever. Even though he wasn't here, he needed his voice to be heard, and that they was going to paint this guy out to be a hero when we know it was a classic case of alienation and the silver bullet. Yeah. So we stopped everything we was doing. I think our lives went on hold at that moment, and we took off to up north. I think our first stop was in Salt Lake City in a connecting flight, getting up to Spokane, Washington. And man, talk about culture shock. What was that like going from Texas to Spokane, Robert?
It's very cold, first of all, but
to say the least.
Yeah. It was nothing but white everywhere you looked, and super cold. I've never been in negative degree weather less than 2 or 3 degrees, and to go from that to, I think, negative 30 degrees was huge shock.
Yeah, man. It was like the further east we went back. We started off in Washington, went all the way over to North Dakota and even into Minneapolis. But the more we came back east, getting into Montana and then North Dakota, the colder it seemed to get. And there was no airports to where we was going. So Washington was as close as we could get to Montana. We had to drive through Idaho to get up there. And man, no gas stations, guys. If we wouldn't have stopped for gas when we saw a gas station, it would have been all she wrote. Because in many of the places, we didn't even have cell phone signal.
Yep.
And we wouldn't have cell phone signal for like an hour or two at a time. So if you'd have, ran out of gas or whatever, you were up the creek without a paddle.
You definitely would have died. Like it's that bad. If you, I guess people were prepared. I mean, we really didn't see anyone on the side of the road. But even when we did stop for gas, the gas pumps froze a couple of times, and you couldn't really even get any gas. So it was so cold.
Dave Murray's got a question on here. I'm sorry, Robert.
You're fine.
He said, has there been any corrections or procedural changes in the courts where John Mast hearing were conducted? I don't think so. That'd be a question. I see Kevin here in the comments. Maybe he can give you guys that. And that kind of brings me in to one of the things that I want to get out about the film. And if you guys got any questions, we're just sitting here having a chat about the process. So, feel free to ask. I know one thing that can be desired at the end of this film is, well, what happened to mom, what happened to the dad, and this is a case that's still ongoing. So there's only so much information that we've got. We had talked about doing a part 2 at one point in time, but as those updates come, I will tell you there is something at the end. I think Robert can speak to this. There is something at the end that I think is going to shock people. It's going to warm their heart.
Super powerful.
It's powerful.
Yep.
It's very, very powerful. But we're going to play you guys a couple of scenes. I guess since we're talking about the cold, and this is before we met up with the family, me and Robert was, again, culture shock. We didn't know how to take the cold. So we stopped on the side of the road to get some B footage of the water. And I saw this frozen lake, and I was like, man, it can't be as cold as it looks. I'm going to throw a rock. We're going to film it like busting through the ice, and we're going to use this in the documentary. And it did not turn out the way we thought it was going to.
It was funny.
All right, let me show you guys this clip real quick.
Go ahead.
I need it kind of in the deep ice.
Go ahead. Right there.
Right here?
Yep.
Where at?
Just throw it right there. Right. So much for crushing.
That's funny.
I threw it hard.
And that was a really heavy rock too. That was not a light rock.
No, it wasn't. And that was as we was still going east. Kevin said here, guys, for anybody that's interested, trial for Jim Brashear is set for week of March 21st, 2022. So we do got a trial date. Again, as that moves along, I'm sure, we'll be coming on here and giving you guys updates. And if I could say anything to the community right now, I know when these stories happen, there's like this, everybody is tuned in. They want something to be done. And then it seems like after a while, the momentum starts kind of going away. And that bothers me. Because here is one of the guys, John was a member of this community. He was here. He was constantly posting stuff. If you go on his page, everything was about his kids. Everything was about alienation, trying to educate people. And we're going to have to keep this story going. This story has got to, stay out there and letting them know that, hey, we're watching this and this is not going to go away.
Well, I think they'll get it with the documentary. In the documentary, it talks about false allegations, corruption, Title 4D. It brings everything out. So,
speaking of, the opening scene, I give some statistics that we acquired not long ago, and to try to show people just how bad this is. The first part of the film, I really come at it strong from a father's angle and what fathers are going through, the disproportion between moms and dads when it comes through custody and stuff. We start off telling everybody how normal this is. One of the shocking statistics to me, Robert, is it's reported that 8% of the nation has received false allegations. Now, that might not seem like much, 8%. That 8% figure is 20.4 million adults in the United States of America have been through false allegations of either sexual abuse or physical abuse. That is alarming, especially when somebody can make that allegation and we see there's never really any true consequences to it, right? So we start off with that, letting people know how common this was before it goes in to John's case, because you got to remember too, we're hoping that this is going to reach people on the outside. This might be their first time ever hearing about alienation and finding out what's going on with the false allegations. So we got to start off with a little of that. So you might see some familiar stuff, but it's only like the first 10 minutes. But I can honestly say, man, this has been a labor of love. And I want to talk about the story there for a second. I've heard in Hollywood actors talking about how they get caught up in their character that they play. And like after they check out for the day or once the movie's done, they're still kind of in that character and it's kind of hard to break. I'd be a liar if I told you right now that, I mean, I didn't experience this, even though this was a true story, like getting caught up in John's story, wanting to make sure that we do him justice, and trying to think inside of his head, what would he want us to say? What would he want people to know? It was very hard to separate from it at the end of the day. I mean, even today, as I was making the last final changes, I was like, is it really over? You know,
It
did
doesn't feel like
we
it's
do
over.
the yeah, did we do the best we could? Is there something else I could add? Or is, you know, you're constantly second guessing yourself because you want it to be the best you can for a father that did everything the right way and ultimately lost his life fighting for his children.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, what was that like for you reliving? I mean, everybody got to see the end result of what happened to John, but going back through the court case, finding out the different allegations, I know that hit close to home with you, being through the CPS allegations that you've been through. But what was that like going back and hearing John's story as we're telling it in this documentary?
It was bad. I mean, it's like you relive it every day. Like you're living it anyway. And then you're also living it with the people that are talking about it on Dad Talk and the support groups everywhere else, and your people you're trying to help. But then, you know, you're going through trying to make you want to get the story out there the best way you can. And you just want to make sure it hits home with everybody. And the sad part is, unless you've experienced this, I mean, you can watch movies on stuff. It's kind of like we were talking the other day. You know, you can show people, like you can show people in jail or something like that. But until you experience it or whatever, you can empathize, and you can kind of think of what it would be like and you see what it's like. But unless you're there and you smell the smells, you hear the hearing, you go through the whole thing, you won't know what it's like. And same thing with false allegations, same thing with family court. Unless you've experienced this, you may be able to empathize with somebody, but just the amount of stress or worry or anything else that you're going through, you really want to get that across too. So
that brings up another, thing that I told you I wanted to bring up. There is one clip that when we was making it, we named it "Did the Family Understand?" When John was on Thanksgiving, he talked about how supportive of a family he had, but because they hadn't been through it, he didn't know if they could relate to just how bad of his situation was. And most of them admit in there they didn't understand. And that shows you just how big of a wedge and how alone these people that are experiencing alienation and false allegations feel. Because when it comes to a supportive family, you couldn't have had a more supportive family than his. You just could not, man. I mean, I've said it time and time again. I have never met a more beautiful family in my life, and they was there every step of the way, physically, financially, emotionally. They was there for him. But because they hadn't walked a mile in those shoes, it was hard for me when I started this show with the parents that would write in with the silver bullets, and I didn't know what exactly it was they was going through. I mean, I knew it was bad, but the anxiety and the toll that it takes on you, I
when
can't
your
imagine.
family, your friends, all of a sudden you have these false allegations used against you, and your family is like, "What?" Or even your friends, and they know it's bad or false. It's just that you're going through this. So all of you that are experiencing it out there, I can see in the comments how many people are going through it, and that's why we have a support group for you all too. If you're going through it, come to the support group. We have plenty of advocates and help that you can get if you're going through any of this, and tips and tricks of it. What that can maybe help you going through it right now.
Let's talk about another one, the challenges that we had here. So, again, we didn't have time to prepare. We did not write a script. We didn't have anything. We just dropped everything we was doing and said, let's go. John needs us. His family needs us. Let's go. And we started filming. So later on, we realized, how much preparation you actually need when going into one of these, because we were in the moment. John had just been murdered. We wanted to get that story out and what was going on, but I wish we would have had a little bit more time to talk about who John was as a person. So that's where the next challenge came from, because unless, I don't know if any of you guys know it, John was Amish growing up. His family was Amish up until 2004. So when it comes to pictures of him as a child, growing up as a teenager, there is none. And we didn't have any of that. That was shunned upon, I guess, in that culture back then. So up until 2004, we didn't have much to go off of. So we got creative and done some things, but just in case somebody's like, well, where's some of these pictures? I mean, we didn't have any.
Yeah. I was looking at some of these messages, but John was a father that had been exonerated and he had false allegations used against him. He was exonerated, went through 3 years of this stuff, and he went to pick up his children, judge said, go pick up your kids, showed up to get him, and got shot by his father-in-law in cold blood. So that's just of it. But
this story has made its rounds too. I mean, we've had some, big stories that came out on Dad Talk, but I can honestly say, like, when this happened to John, I had people all over planet Earth that was reaching out, Australia, Canada, England, you name it, man. People wanting to know about what had happened to John. And even now, still when we're talking about it, just like just now, there's people that doesn't know what happened to him. And it's all going to be in there. It's, I mean, if you could see the outpouring of love that was put out towards John and his kids, it was amazing. And, that just shows you that there is people out there that care. There is a community. I think it's been very hard for the alienation or the family law community to get to people on the outside, because we just don't have no representation.
Yeah.
Nobody really puts a spotlight on it. Guys, I'm telling you, I've had people is like, I hope Netflix or Amazon or something like that catches on to it. I've talked to network executives time and time and time again. You've been there with me when I've done it, Robert. Most of the time what I'm told is it's not sexy, so we're not going to report on it. I've said from the very beginning, I didn't know the news or what is actually going on is supposed to be sexy. I thought it was supposed to be reported so that we can tell people what's going on currently right now. Following this with John, I think in the past couple of weeks, even I've had like 3 fathers that got shot at custody exchanges.
Yep.
And they started reaching out because they knew that we had reported on these other ones. And one of the scariest things that I've became quite used to seeing is parents reaching out to me saying, I'm the next John Mast. I think that's the part of this story that really resonates with people, is if you've ever been through these issues, it makes you stop and think, could this happen to me?
Yeah.
I've been there. I've had those thoughts. I've wondered myself, and this is just how dangerous it can get. I just got word, I think, a couple of days ago about another family down there in Florida. When it was time to give Dad back the kids, she killed the kids and then killed herself. I think she shot him with drugs, man. And then, we had the case over in Arizona with Kevin where she killed the kids and then turned around and tried to kill herself. What's going on here is very, very serious stuff that mainstream society just doesn't turn their head towards. And the part that pisses me off the most, sorry to use that, but I don't know any other way to say it, but pisses me off, we see the case that's going on with Gabby Petito right now as a serious case. I'm glad they're reporting on it. But why aren't they reporting on these dads that this is going down with too? If sensationalism and shocking things is what they want on the media, my God.
It's real life.
This is real life. Look at what's going on with these people, and you fail to cover it. The coverage that it has seen is usually on like some local news, but for the bigger guys, they just completely turn their head and don't look at it.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it. I, for the life of me, don't understand it.
While we were going through this, there was a lot of footage, like I said, that we were going through. We're going to show you some of that today too.
Yep.
Show another clip to kind of show them.
Yeah, we're going to show you another clip. This is one of the questions that we had for the family is when I was just talking about, guys, that, John's story makes us all sit back and like, that could have been me. We wanted to know, do you think that John had a feeling that something like this could happen? Right. And that's the clip that you're going to see now. This would be in the documentary. Think that John knew something like this was possible?
Yes.
Oh, we definitely did. We definitely did. John had made a few remarks. I'd seen a little bit of email writing. I knew that John at times was just terrified as to what he should do. He wanted the children and yet felt threatened.
The families talked about that quite a bit. I think there are some premonitions there just in some of the comments he made, whether it was to coworkers or friends or family, in the days or weeks ahead of when this happened.
I've thought a lot about that the last few days, and I think it's easy to say, oh yeah, I could see that coming. I did not think that would happen.
I don't think he fully knew that it was going to happen, but he made it clear that the possibility is there.
I think John wanted to believe that this would never happen, that somebody that he used to have a relationship with wouldn't take things this far.
I do believe so. We were concerned with him, and we heard from time to time, I think his ex-wife mentioned that a threat at one point, and his father-in-law said something to the effect that he'll do whatever it takes. He'll kill you. I'll kill you.
This was contentious. There was a lot of bad blood, but it was still shocking when it happened. That's the only way I know to answer it. I think other people weren't shocked, but for me personally, I was just shocked by it. I do. And I'm not sure. I try to rationalize how he processes. I try to wrap my mind around that. John, how were you feeling? Were you scared? Why didn't we have a bulletproof vest? We all were scared for his life.
He openly told me that the threats were made, and he believed it could happen. I mean, he just, told me in plain words that the threats have been made.
And he did know that this could happen. We and him did know how volatile Jim's character was and the temper and so on. So he did always know this could happen. So I think part of him saying, don't come, was for my safety. But I did end up coming. I got off the phone and I thought about it, talked to my sister about it, and I told her that we need to be there. We need to come and be with John for this time.
That was one of the clips, guys. Could you imagine, going through this process, fighting so hard and feeling like you got a target on your back? I mean, I guess that rings true for just about 90% of you here right now. I could only imagine what was going through his head, man.
Yeah, most of the people in this group are going through some form of it. So, just feel like you have a target on your back, and at any point, someone's just going to take a shot. So,
yep. Let's talk about the traveling. This was something that we was discussing earlier. So when we was going through Montana and Idaho all the way back to North Dakota, I didn't think we was ever going to get there. I honestly did not think we was ever going to get there, and we just went one way. This was a trip that John was making two ways until he moved to Idaho, just to see his kids, not even knowing if he was going to get blocked when he got there.
Yeah.
What did
how many hours were we in the car?
I want to say 14.
Yeah, one way.
One way.
Yep.
And we didn't stop unless it was to get gas or to use the bathroom. And I'll tell you guys, we didn't stay there long because we was ready to get back in the car with the heater.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 14 hours, and I just can't imagine what it was like, how grueling of a process that was. And, we got to Williston, North Dakota, and we went to the courthouse. We went to the courthouse and stood in the very spot that John had fought to prove his innocence. And that feeling was just so surreal, guys, being there and thinking of what must have been going through his head at that time, what all he had put into it. And there was one little twist to that case that had it been done in the first place when John went to civil court, we might not be talking about this today. And I'll wait to let you guys see that. But, we tried to talk to the judge that was on that case. We wanted to know what his thoughts was following this. We were denied.
Yeah.
But we did go. We did go and we tried. So,
it was kind of interesting being in the courtroom, knowing that was the same courtroom that John had sat in, and he was in that witness chair, and behind those desks. It's pretty surreal because it had just happened, and when we went up there, so
yeah. And then I don't know, man. It's been a journey. It has been, for sure. I can only imagine what it was like those years that he sat there and fought. But the amount of hours that we've put in, I hope everybody enjoys. You're not going to enjoy it, but I hope it makes you proud to know that we've got out there and we're trying to get out these stories that it seems like the mainstream is so afraid to cover, and we put the work into it to make sure that there's justice there. I think for the past month and a half, 2 months, we've ate, breathed, and slept, this documentary. And that can be a little hard sometimes, There was a lot of sacrifice with the family. I'm getting this out.
Yeah.
But
I was about to say something about it because I was like, I wanted to clear the air for people that think negatively about this.
Well, I mean, you're always going to have the naysayers that's, trying to get famous or make money. Yeah, it's one thing about it for anybody that's watching right now. Next week, this documentary is 100% free.
It is free to watch. We're not putting it out there for you to pay a monthly subscription to some service or per download or anything like that. This will be 100% free for everyone to see. That was the whole intent of making this, was to get the story out, to get for everyone to understand what false allegations are and family court and everything else. So the whole point to all this, and even Dad Talk today, is to make people aware of what is going on.
And I mean, you guys, let's help spread it when it comes out. We did this on probably the biggest shoestring budget. I'd like to know if there was a documentary made for cheaper, because
I doubt it.
But the beautiful part about this is when it happened, the community really stepped up and helped, because the flights for me, you, and Melissa was $1,000 a piece. Then the rental car was $1,000, not to include gas and everything. I mean, it got donated overnight, and we went up there and we did what we said we was going to do.
Yeah.
So there's people that, want to see that justice and want to see that get out there. And, I'm sure there's going to be other times where we're going to need to do something similar, and we're in the process right now of trying to upgrade the studio to where we can get out there in the field. It's so much different when you can go to the place that it happened and show people where it went down, how it went down, that you just can't do on here.
I'm telling you, I wish we had teams of us that could go out and cover each one of your stories. That would be the ideal situation, but we just don't have those types of resources that we can do that.
Yeah. And I'm sure that that's going to change. That's going to change. This is starting to happen too much. You're starting to see it in the headlines. And man, the part of it that makes me so sick is it's this whole thing is because of money that we're in this in the first place. The family court, these situations that these people are going through, it's like it's a money racket.
It is a money racket. I mean,
It is.
no other thing about it.
It is.
I know when we were even here at in Texas at the judiciary, you know, they're getting funded or campaign contributions. But if you think about it, it's really nothing because there's how many people on the judiciary committee? 8, something like that.
And like 9 or 10, yeah.
Well, even if this family law groups or anybody else wants to donate to these people for, to maybe sway them one way or the other, even if they're giving them, I don't know, say $10,000, even $50,000 a piece, even if it's 10 of them, it's 500,000. I spent more than that on one case alone. So imagine millions of people that they're buying these people for almost nothing on these little, it's chump change to them. And they're taking, if it's swaying their votes or anything else, just to not have shared parenting. And it's just ridiculous. So
there was a question from Dave Murray. Has the family gotten to see the kids? No, they have not. No. I'm sure we'll update you guys as we get a little bit more. And there's going to be a lot of, those questions like what happened here, what happened there. And I think a lot of us can probably put the puzzle together in our heads. But that's just not the way the courts operate. I think there will be justice. I do. And I can tell you one thing that I want you guys to be mindful of. Me and Kevin have teased it a little bit on the show. Every week, this family is working nonstop to make sure that John's legacy and that support and resources come out to you guys. We could not have done this without them. They're starting something called the John Mass Foundation. It's going to have resources for alienated parents. They'll be very, very active in the community. And I think we're probably looking to launch that at the same time as the documentary comes out. So, and that's going to be a 501c3. Yeah. So if we can help them, I know there's a lot of 501c3s out there, but they're looking for ways to gain those resources to give it back to people like you.
That's right.
Real resources, not just sitting there and talking about it. They want to do it. So, once that comes out, I'm sure there'll be some fundraisers, birthday fundraisers that you guys can get out. We can help people that are going through these situations. And that's been hard for me, man. If you, I guess let's show a little bit of the behind the scenes. No matter if I do, I do. I can work from the time that I wake up till the time that I go to sleep. You can't get to all these stories.
Mm-mm.
So many people need help. There's nothing you can do. And I'll work on it all day long. I'll talk to people about their stories. I'll try to get them some resources and stuff. For every one that I answer, there's 100 waiting.
Yep.
And we've got to have a system in place. We've got to have something where these people can reach out to. You never know who can be messaging. And I think that's the part that keeps me up at night. I made a post yesterday, not to talk about it. I mean, I went to the ER yesterday. I woke up yesterday. When I peed, it looked like Coca-Cola. I am exhausted. And the doctor said everything looked fine. I was perfect. I was healthy as a horse. The only thing it could point out to was burnout. And you'll have people that say, just take a break, just take a break. But when you get messages like I got the morning of February 6th about John, there's no time for a break.
No.
There's no time, but we've got to get something in place for these people to reach out to. And that's, I want to say, I should have said this a little bit earlier on. I don't know what I would do without this guy on the screen. I have no idea. Been one of the best friends that I could ever ask for. This would not have happened without him. If I woke up tomorrow and told him I needed him here, he'd be there. And he believes in this movement. Robert, you're beyond your case now, but you're still in here fighting because you know what it was like to go through it. And as many allegations and family court and hundreds of thousands of dollars you spent, the Dad Talk Today support group, guys, he's done an amazing job giving daily updates in there and talking to parents. Part of another reason it took us so long to get the documentary out. I mean, every 30 minutes there was a parent that was calling Robert saying, "Hey, I need help." And he never rushed them, sat there and took his time trying to help them and give them some guidance. So, I appreciate this guy right here so much. And guys, get in there in that support group and let's build it up. We need some more mentors in the community for people like John. I mean, you never know. You just never know who may be reaching out. And I think that's the biggest thing that we need to work on right now is making sure we have that system in place.
Yep. And if anybody wants to reach any of us, Eric is on here at least once a week with Kevin. I know he's on here a lot more, but even with Kevin, you can come in, you can chat, just like right now. The chat's open. We'll sit here, we'll take your chat. If you have a question, we'll talk to you. But if you think you're being ignored because you're emailing it or texting, you don't hear it back, or believe me, I'm telling you, in our messages, I try to clear mine out, and Eric gets probably a couple of hundred more than I do. And there's no way, even when we're doing this documentary, we had to pause it several times because look, Eric, this person had messaged me, something's really going on. Eric was still working on the documentary. I was talking as we're talking here and still taking phone calls. We'd have to mute it and take your call or whatever else. So we really do care about what you're going through, and we try to be here for everybody. But if you believe we're ignoring you somehow or anything else, you do not understand how many people, we just can't help everybody, and we're not choosing. It's just whatever comes up that we're seeing at that moment. So
no favorites or anything like that. You just can't keep up with it. And that's where I think the foundation is really going to help fill that void. Having those resources there and people that you can reach out to and talk to, finding out what's going on. I think many of us, when we start going through parental alienation, because it's not represented in the mainstream, you have no idea what's going on. Yeah. And as crazy as the story sounds sometimes, they're crazy. And so you tell people in the real world what's going on with you, nobody believes you. But it's true. So to have those resources and make these people feel so not alone. I mean, that's what alienation does to you. It isolates you. It beats you down. I've said many times, people say it's not about the parent. It's about the child. I disagree. Yes, it's about the child, and that's why we fight and do what we do. Yes, it's about children's rights, but no parent should have to be spending the money that some of these guys are spending. No parent should have to go through these abuse, through these accusations. Nobody. And it beats them up, man. It just straight beats them up and makes them feel like they don't have anywhere to turn. And let's be honest, that's why they do it.
Yeah.
That's why they do it in the first place. So
shame on the parents that use false allegations, shame on the system that allows it, and shame on the lawyers that promote it.
That's it. That's about the best way to put it. So, guys, we're going to be releasing this again, like I said, next Sunday at 8:00 p.m. I'm sure we'll do some follow-up shows. If you know of somebody that's got a show or anything like that, I don't want to be on there too long. I'm going to try my best to do a little bit of a media blitz this upcoming week to advertise this is coming out so that people know about it. And we've even talked to some theaters. We've even talked to some theaters. There's some theaters in the local areas where all this went down that is talking about doing showings. And that's, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But if that happens and you're somewhere close by where you can get to it, pack it out. I mean, pack it out. Show them this is our movement. He was one of us. John was on the front lines. We're here. We're backing him. He might not be here anymore, but we're his voice. His fight is still going. It's going stronger than ever.
If you want to show any of these, if you want to show this video any of your local theaters, you can actually rent out one of the theaters for not very much, and you're more than welcome to show this movie. We're thinking about sending it out to churches and everybody else that wants to see it. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes long, something like that.
It's going to be right. We're looking at about an hour 10, and so we'd even talked about that. We had a documentary 2 months ago that we had put together with what little bit of time that we had, guys, and it was about 2 hours long. So we had one, and talked to the family, showed them, and after talking, we was like, we've got to go back to the drawing board because we wanted it to be as good as we can. This is we wiped this slate 100% clean and started all back over again from scratch. I think it was worth it.
Yeah, it was, just to make sure that we got the best content and story that we could get out there without, we definitely couldn't have put any more hours in this. I mean,
no.
We were living and breathing this documentary for last couple of months. So there's no way we could have put more hours into it. I think it's a really good documentary. I think it'll get the word out, and I think people will see exactly what's going on.
Yeah. So I guess let's play our last scene that we got plugged in here, and we'll come back on for a second, and we'll get out of here.
And several years ago, I started hearing a phrase that was thrown around by football teams called next man up. And what that means is we can't let, when our starter goes down, we can't let that impact our morale. We can't let that kill our heart, because we're here on a mission. We're a team, and we've got to carry on as a team. And all of you here, that's what we are. We're the next person up. John was the starter. He was the star, he was the starter, and it was his heart, and it was his passion to do everything and support every cause that is on every one of these signs that we have. And it's up to us now. And it's up to us to do what we can with the legislature to make changes, to do what we can legally, and to do what we can with just telling John's story. Anybody that will listen, anybody that you can talk to, he is not going to die in vain. His story is going to be told, but it's got to be told by somebody. And that starts with everybody that's here, everybody that's listening out there. We are the next people up. And I would challenge all of you, whenever you can tell that story, and do what you can to further John's causes. Those need to become our causes. Because I do believe he's looking down.
So, I think I've talked about this before. The candle is something that was very sentimental to John. I know they got it for the logo for the foundation, and you guys will love it. John, that candle that you saw, that was actually the candle that was in his apartment window. He told his brother that he had lit that candle and that it would remain lit until he had reunited with his children. So that was a very sentimental thing. So you'll see several different candles throughout, and that footage, that was, I don't think we talked about that. That's when we went and did a rally up in Idaho.
Yeah.
Just some of you might not see much of that, but we went to the Capitol with the whole Mass family up in Boise, Idaho, and we talked to legislators all day long. What was shocking about that was how many legislators actually told us that they had been through it.
Yeah.
They said that they had been through it. They had been through family court. They had been through the allegations and wanted to get some stuff going. And we left from Boise, drove 4 hours up to Lewiston, and the next day did that rally. The police station and the courthouse is side by side. And I know we did video that day, but I don't think we'll ever be able to capture on video how powerful that was to be standing out front of there with that crowd that we had with those signs: parental alienation is child abuse, support shared parenting, John was killed for loving his kids. We started off in front of the police station, and then we walked around to the front of the courthouse and stood there in front of the streets with the sign. All the media was out there and getting the word out about John. I know you said there was a couple of people that stopped and talked to you, wasn't there, Robert?
There was. It was pretty interesting. Had a older gentleman, after I told him what had happened, he kind of was just shook his head like, he was just upset by it, and took off and almost got into a wreck, which that would have been really bad. But the story affects people in different ways. Like I said, everybody in this group has gone through some form of abuse, whether it was court abuse or parental alienation or targeted parent or anything else. So this is the extreme of all of that. So
that's what pisses me off so much about when society or the narrative of the deadbeat dad is mentioned. Fathers that would go to lengths like this, they're not deadbeat dads. And they need to stop throwing that around. But it's so popular and it's such a strong thing, man. But these guys are fighting tooth and nail, spending every penny they've got. And when they go through these allegations, they still keep fighting.
Well, that's what they do when they name call like that, right? They try to paint you in a bad light, so everyone is against you and they listen to them over you. And that kind of is exactly what happens in court. You want to paint the person in front of the judge as something that they're not, or take the focus off of you. And that's why they try all these false allegations. That's why all of y'all are going through this right now. Had nothing to do with y'all. Had the person been a mentally stable person, more than likely you wouldn't be going through any of this stuff, because they would see what it's doing to the kids, what it's doing to you as a parent, and not do any of it.
I truly believe if the judges were educated more, which they should be, they're in family court, they should see these things a mile away. But alienation is, to me, I don't think it's that hard to spot. One of the things that I've learned over the past couple of years doing this is it's the same tricks that are played over and over.
Yep.
There is a handful of tricks. You switch the names, you switch the faces, but it seems to be the same thing over and over. So you can just find this little common scenario that people say, and I'll post about it every once in a while, and people be like, "Oh man, that's me. You're describing what I went through perfectly." And it's, there you go. That's one of the tricks, right? And if they knew and they was educated on it a little bit more, which they should be, I just think it would be much easier.
I found this out going through family court. And not all judges are like this, but for the most part, what I've seen a lot of judges is that if, let's just say you file something and the judge has seen this before, they know it's, I don't know, let's just take something like child support. The amicus tries to, and this is what I've been hearing a lot, apparently this is kind of rampant right now, is the amicus attorneys are trying to not only get their fees paid, but get them as child support. That way, if you don't pay their fees, and the amicus attorney is actually your child's lawyer. So if you don't pay those fees, you go to jail because they want them as child support. Well, in Texas, there's laws against that. Well, the amicus tries it anyway. And unless your counsel goes in there and says, no, here's section, blah, 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 whatever, of the Texas code, you can't do this. A lot of times the judge is allowing it unless you can prove that you know that this is wrong. Although you can prove that the judge has ruled against this in other cases, but yet if you're not that person that's saying, okay, here's the code, if you're not showing the judge that you know the code, then more than likely they're gonna get what they want, which is you're gonna end up paying your attorney's fees as child support fees, and you could go to jail. This is wrong. The judge knows it's wrong, but unless you're telling the judge that you know it's wrong, then it's like, no harm, no foul. That's not okay. If the judge knows it's wrong and they've ruled against it in other cases, they need to rule against it in all their cases. And it's not just this. This is everything across the board. This is even false allegations. This is everything, right? So why would you have to go into court with your attorney to prove that you know these things on what they should be doing to make the judge do what they should be doing? Instead, they should already know this is the law, and whether you show them that you know it or not, they should do what the law is intended to do, which is protect the innocent. So
no, the whole thing is screwed up. I mean, you saw the meeting I had in front of the legislature last week with the Child Support Commission. That was actually a very funny story, guys. I had been told about it like a week before, and I told them to give me a reminder. I've been working on the documentary all day. I'm sitting there in the bathtub trying to relax, and I look at my phone and I'm like, man, can I really relax right now? I feel like there's something I'm supposed to be doing. I put my phone back down for a couple of minutes, and then it hit me. I was like, oh, crap, that meeting's going on. So I had no time. I jumped out, and I got my pajamas on. I was actually in my pajamas. I wasn't planning on talking to him. I was just going to sit back and make sure I knew what was going on. And then I hear one of the guys get on there, and he starts saying, well, let's talk about this. You know, for people that are making more money, we need to make sure they're paying more child support. If they make money, let's get some more money out of them. I saw the guy, like the rest of the legislators, smiling and kind of nodding their head. And I'm like, what kind of circus is this? Are we talking? Where did we leave the conversation where it talks about the needs of the child? It was no longer about the needs of the child.
Mama needs a purse.
So I popped in there in my pajamas.
Or dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's make sure the needs are met and stop making it about money. I mean, it's very simple. And there's not much. There was a moment of silence. There was no rebuttal because they knew that the conversation had left the room when we're talking about the best interest of the child, or that they use, that we oddly enough have no definition for. You'll get a different definition of the best interest from everybody you talk to.
Yeah.
But I think the best interest should be let mom and dad be dads. And if somebody is blocking that, step in and do something, which is no different in the case than what you're seeing right here. You know, I think some of the tricks that were played were very obvious. And a lot of this could have been prevented.
Yep.
Had that first judge did what they was supposed to do, might not be talking about this today, man. I mean, you can't say that. Sure, I don't want to throw that out there because, you know, the scenario of what happened to John could happen at any point in given time, no matter what ruling.
I mean, crazy's crazy. So
crazy's crazy, you know. And
but it could have been maybe played a factor in it. So.
Could have. All right, guys. Well, thank you for sitting here and listening to me and Robert ramble. I know we're very proud to present this to you next week. If there's anything I could ask, just make sure when it comes out that we get it out there. I want this to be the number one viewed and shared thing that we've done in John's memory. And please don't repost. If it's uploaded to Dad Talk, all you got to do is share it. That's been
don't copy it, don't download it, and then repost it. Just share it, please.
You'll actually get in trouble because it's got copyrighted material in it. So, you know, be careful about that. We want the video to stay clean and get out there. And you know, there's a couple of people I'd like to thank. Shane Hayward. Shane actually got that He's the one that had that footage right there at the end where you saw Kevin talking at the rally. KLEW for giving us that footage. David Walk. David was super good to us, man. As much as we wanted to make all of the states, I think Idaho we missed in the first trip. We came back later, but David took off with his camera. He got us that footage. He's been there every step of the way. Media. When we was over in Williston, North Dakota, there was something going down with the case. They went and did some filming for us. And I hate naming and thanking people because I'll probably leave somebody out. If I do that, I don't mean it on purpose. But there was a lot of people that stepped up to the plate to get that.
There was. Anytime we asked for help, there was somebody that helped somehow, some way. Even all of you all, you have no idea how much the little donations here and there helped. I'm telling you, even when Eric and I were on the road, they helped. Gas, everything. So we don't ask all the time for donations or anything, but when we do, believe me, it is for something that we need or whatever. So it's definitely, and believe me, we're helping people every day, all day.
All day long. Merge Music and Film said, guys, is there any update on the case? Kevin said something a little above. I can't remember the exact date. It was March 2022, though, that Jim goes to trial. And you can rest assured, I'm positive we will be covering that every step of the way.
March 21st.
March 21st. Maybe even asking for you guys' involvement to make sure that when that starts to go to trial, we get this out there so hard. And I think, sometimes that's the reason why these things get dragged on. Like, hope maybe some of the emotions and some of this will die down, that we can bring the case in. It goes back under the rug. The family courts are smart, man. A lot of the stuff that they do, they've done a great job at keeping these issues swept under the rug.
Oh yeah. Even if we have a bunch of court watchers in there, especially now during COVID. If we have a bunch of court watchers in there, they'll put it for like 11 o'clock. They'll have 100 people in there, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we're going to go ahead and take a 15-minute break, or we're going to reconvene after lunch or something." And then half the people may come back. You see what I'm saying? So they know that you lose traction if they break it up or take breaks. They're smart.
Very smart. And I've said it once, I'll say it again. I believe that this is the biggest movement on the face of this earth that just hasn't seen the light of day yet. I think we've seen little specks of it, but I think this is one of the biggest movements that when these parents finally find out there's somewhere to come together and merge and to get these issues out, you're going to see some action.
Yep.
So,
and we're not stopping here. We're going to do more documentaries. This is not the only one. This is the first of many.
The stories are endless. It's like which one do you cover next? I do know this is a different way of getting the message out. I would like to do some more. I do know we need some upgrades to our equipment.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing, is not having a budget to do it with. But guys, if you see us, we don't ask for funds or anything like that. But if we do, just know we're making our next move to go out and do more of these. And I'm sure we've discussed some already. And it's sad because just because we covered this one, there are so many other cases that are just almost just as bad, man.
Yep.
The week after John died, I got a call about I think it was Pennsylvania. A father got shot at a custody exchange in Pennsylvania when he went to pick up his kids and got killed. Like a week after him. We'll do what we can do. Yeah. We'll do what we can do. And but people need to see these stories and then in the way that we're presenting it. So if you see that, help us. And we promise you, we are trying to present you and represent you guys as good as we know how.
Yeah. So, and you have a donate thing somewhere, right? Do you have a picture?
Yeah.
Or
I don't. If you guys are interested, just message me and I'll make sure that I'll get you that out. You know, awareness is one of the number one things that we've got. That's an important message. You'll say right before we wrap it up. Awareness is one of the most important things we get. I hear people that say sometimes like, "Are we just going to talk about it? Are we just going to talk about it?" Talking about it is powerful because you educate people that don't know what's going on. Every one of you probably watching the show, you know the tricks that are played. You know what it's like to walk a mile in their shoes, but they don't. How do we get that message out to them? That's where we've been strategizing. When we have on a celebrity or a well-known politician, is it to get clout? No. Hopefully, somebody that follows this person will tune in and therefore be educated on something that they didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Most people don't care about it until they go through it.
Or thought that they were the only.
What, you cut out on me.
Or they may think they're the only ones going through it until they see that other people are going through it. I know I thought I was like, there's no way somebody could be going through this too. Sure enough, hundreds of thousands of you all are going through it.
When I started Dad Talk, I did the first episode on parental alienation. My second episode is there's a diet I'm on right now. It's called the carnivore diet. It's kind of like a controversial diet, done great for me. I've lost like 52 pounds in the past 4 months. But there was an episode that had went on Rogan with Dr. Sean Baker, and I was fascinated by that. And so he was my second episode because I was planning on talking about other things going on, even music and different stuff that way. And, that were dads, because I did not know that there would be an audience that big to carry a show like parental alienation. And I was shocked, man. I'm telling you, I went to do that episode, and then when it came out, I was getting messages like, "Why aren't you talking about family court and parental alienation?" And I'm like, well, I did, but there was people that were longing for it, man. It was a way to get out that resource. So like I said, by the time we did our first episode, it was 10,000 followers on the show, and it was because of parental alienation. It was because of divorce. And I had been living in my own little world thinking it was rare. I just wanted to bring some awareness as to if there is people out there, maybe they'll know about it. There's millions of people that are experiencing these issues.
And now we know, and they know, and now the courts know that we all know. So,
but that goes to show you the awareness. People need to know how many of you there are. That's why it's important that we stay on it. A lot of times these episodes are probably going to sound redundant. You never know. There's a new person that's coming in for their first time looking for somewhere to reach out and find some help. So, all right, man. Well, let's get out of here. We got to get this thing rendered down. And that looks like 1 week from today, 1 week from right now, we'll be sitting there and watching this thing finally.
Yeah. All right. We'll have a watch party. We'll see what's going on.
All right, guys. We'll catch y'all later down the road.